Hello, everybody. My name is Peter, and with me I've got Sylvia. You will know that because you've been watching us before, but if you haven't, we're both therapists who came into this kind of work midway through our careers because something happened in our careers where we thought we need to know more about people and we need to be able to deal with issues of the sort of humankind in our mental health world. You will also see today that there's a lovely yellow line running down the side of Sylvia's face. That's to do with ongoing IT problems. So there may be some funny lights and shades and clicks and sounds because somebody's digging up the whole world and all the streets around you, Sylvia,
They
and
are.
it's getting
Yeah.
worse before it gets better, kind of.
Yes, exactly.
And we're in the getting worse part of it right now.
Mm.
So, of course, I feel for you. I feel with you. I have compassion because I understand how irritating it is when your IT doesn't work. Um, and that was kind of a way of trying to lead into our topic for today, which we both stumbled across, called compassion fatigue. Ah, fatigue is when we are tired, fed up, can't do anymore. So compassion fatigue must mean that we can't do more compassion. And the articles that we have seen on compassion fatigue are about all the wars, the natural disasters, the floods, the whatever, everywhere in the world, and people are getting worn out by feeling compassionate about all of this. There's a collection for this, there's a collection for that. The news are full of all these disaster stories that we have to somehow put ourselves in other people's shoes and feel the empathy and also try and do something, which is where compassion comes in, by donating, by volunteering, by at least having a chat with whoever sits next to us with a cup of coffee. Cups of coffee are important. Sylvia and I have our own with us because these recordings are live. When we do it, it's not scripted. So it's just Sylvia and I having this conversation. So I understand the compassion fatigue as far as the big world out there is concerned, because there's an awful lot going on that we have no influence on anyway. But could we take compassion fatigue closer to home, for example?
I think yes, I think we could and we can, Peter. I think um, in this world where we talk about empathy, we've spoken about this before, haven't we, Peter? That empathy is great, but compassion is even better. This compassion to actually do something and take action. But and this coming from helping others, you, me, I, we want to keep helping. Yeah, but we're overwhelmed sometimes by being exposed to the trauma or the stories of others, and we're talking about in our own sort of environment. This is on top of all the things going on in the world at the moment. So I wonder if is there a point at which we become tired or fatigued by helping everyone all the time, especially if one is a go-to person. We've touched on this before, that you might be a go-to person within your family, within your organization, within your business. But is there a point at which it builds and builds and builds? We want to help, we want to action, we want to be by someone's side, we want to be empathic. But is there a point at which we start to, when I say not care, I don't mean not care, quite difficult to differentiate, but it's not care about ourselves or others in life, because we end up overusing and depleting our own resources, our own energies, our own compassion, when we sort of run out of being able to be compassionate towards others, when there is so much compassion that we can all give. And I in a way, I can get this compassion fatigue. I hear so many. I'm not talking in a therapeutic environment, that's completely separate, but as an individual, as Sylvie, people tell me their story. Oh, that's terrible, what can we do there? That's terrible. And sometimes, hang on a minute, can you just park all that, because I need to take care of my own self. I need to be able to keep my own energy levels up. I need to be able to look after myself so I can give to all these other people that's what they want from me, and I like to be able to give it. But there is an element where I just get exhausted, and I can understand this compassion fatigue. It doesn't mean I don't care about other people, but sometimes I have to sort of just pause for a moment and look at myself and just check in with myself. I don't know if that's something that answers your question, Peter, or that's something you can resonate with, or is it just me? I don't know.
I, I don't think I don't think it's just you. Um, I think we looking at a mixture of messages that are getting confused with one another. There's a lot of talk about self-care.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love yourself, you can't love others.
Yeah.
There's also the message which says self-care is selfish.
Mm-hmm.
But looking after yourself is not selfish, it is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we are told we have to be compassionate, we have to be kind. I mean, you and I, Sylvia, have been on stage talking about kindness. In business,
Yes.
does kindness pay? Is it worthwhile? Absolutely, yes, it is. But it seems to be now something we have to remember to do on top of what we do otherwise, rather than it being who we are. So we are not supposed to, we're not really a kind person, but we do kindness as if it's something, it's a show we put on. And then we have also been told compassion is really, really good. All the studies point at that's what employees want from their bosses. They want compassion. And the bosses think that if they show compassion, it's a sign of weakness and therefore it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder whether we are now going for quantity rather than quality, so that we are spreading our ability to be kind and compassionate really wide instead of giving what is really necessary and do it well. And then that would be far better expression and use, if you like, of our ability to be compassionate.
Mm.
So in a way, I think we are adjusting to the right level, and we haven't quite found it yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think perhaps there's, as you've been talking there, I wonder whether there's a tipping point into almost like a compassion fatigue where it's similar to burnout, not burnout in terms of coming from stress, from coming from having too much work and too many responsibilities, but this fatigue in terms of being able to always deliver and be kind and compassionate to everyone. I do wonder whether that is an area where, I mean, I've had this, for example, quite a few weeks ago now. I had a bit of a spell when I did feel a bit worn out from lots of things. Someone asked me about something or other, and I honestly said, look, I can't really help you right now with that. I'll come back to you whenever. Oh, you don't care.
Mm.
It's not the fact that I didn't care. It's the fact that right at that moment, I know myself, I would not have been able to deliver and be my best self, my 100%, whatever you want to call it, to be able to help them in that moment. This was just in a personal situation. This is nothing to do with work or being a therapist or counsellor. This was just basically down the stables, to be honest.
Mm.
And oh, you don't care, and that was really quite hurtful, because I do care. I just wasn't able to do it just like that at that moment, because I wasn't 100% myself. I was very, very tired. So I couldn't, it's quite hurtful. So I wonder whether there's that element there that it's not that we don't care, but that there are just some points where we need to care for ourselves first to be able to continue being compassionate to everyone else.
I just love that example, Sylvia, because it takes this conversation in a direction that I hadn't thought of when we first started. Compassion is something that we give.
Mm.
But we should also be at a point where we are able to receive the compassion.
Yeah. Great point.
So
Yeah.
you weren't able to give at that time. The person wanted something and wasn't able to see that you were not in a position to give what they wanted, and then felt that you were being selfish.
Mm.
Well, actually, where was the selfishness in all of this? Was that just demanding compassion and not realizing that compassion is a two-way street?
Mm.
You have to be compassionate about understanding whether somebody else is actually in a position to offer. that
Mm.
compassion.
Mm.
There's a lot of compassion going in the one sentence there.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at it from two perspectives. Can we give and can we receive? And maybe some of the fatigue comes from hitting a brick wall where we try to do good, but good is not wanted or it doesn't make any difference. Because the 50p you put in the collection box, you have no idea where that goes and if it actually makes any difference, because it's still the same story, still the same story. And then you might end up giving up, feeling, oh, I can't do more.
And it's an interesting angle, as you were talking there, compassion and care. Where is that line between the two of them? Because I wonder, it's a bit of a weird one, can we actually care too much? I think we spoke about this earlier. Can we care too much? So we're always wanting to care and be compassionate and help other people, but sometimes, but then we don't want to not care, because that's not who we are and what we stand for. But at the same time, we have to be aware of our own selves at that point where actually I've overdone it. You know, I've depleted my own resources. So yeah, there's a lot different, you know, levels and dilemmas going on there.
This is not an easy one, and I want to throw it out there to those to help us untie this knot, because we are being told we should care about other people. We're also being told only focus on what you can control and what you can influence.
Yeah.
And that is the same as saying, don't care about this, don't care about that. But at the same time, we need to show compassion, wide and deep and all that stuff. But that's caring, that's getting involved with stuff that we can't necessarily influence or control. So we started somewhere, I think we ended somewhere else. And I would really love for our audience to take us to the next destination in this conversation. So,
I'd really like to hear what other people, because now we've had this conversation, Peter, I've got myself in a bit of a pickle about it. So it'd be interesting to hear what other people's views are.
Thank you so much for staying with us. And thank you again, Sylvia, for having this conversation. We shall see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.
See you later. Bye-bye.